stared at his data pad and frowned. The message was strange. An estate auction was happening in Sector 19, and nobody seemed to care. He ran a salvage business on Threshold 7, a small colony world at the edge of known space. His job was finding old ships and selling their parts, but this message was different. The auction was for an entire ship, a colony ship, and it was happening in 3 hours. "That's weird," said to himself. He sat in his small office, surrounded by boxes of spare parts and old equipment. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago. He checked the auction details again. No seller name, no ship registration, just coordinates to an old station in Sector 19 and a time. The starting bid was only 300 credits. That was nothing. A ship that size should cost millions. Something felt wrong, but had learned to trust his gut. Wrong things sometimes meant opportunity. He grabbed his jacket and headed out. His assistant was working in the garage bay. She was young, maybe 25, with oil stains on her hands and a tool belt around her waist. She could fix anything. "We're going to Sector 19, said. She looked up from the engine she was repairing. "Why? That sector is abandoned. Nobody goes there anymore." "There's an auction," explained. "Could be worth checking out." Wiped her hands on a rag. "Could be a trap too." "Could be," agreed, "but I'm curious, you coming?" She thought for a moment, then nodded. "Someone needs to keep you from getting killed." They took small transport ship, the Morning Star. It was old but reliable. The journey to Sector 19 took 2 hours. As they approached the coordinates, saw the station floating in space. It was huge and dark. Most of its lights were off. Only a few emergency beacons blinked in the darkness. "Creepy," said, looking at the... "Yeah," agreed. They docked at the station's main port. The docking clamps were automatic, still working after all these years. But when they stepped inside, the station was empty. Completely empty. The air was stale but breathable. Emergency lights created long shadows on the walls. Their footsteps echoed in the quiet corridors. "Where is everyone?" asked. "Good question," said. They followed the signs to the auction house. It was a large room with rows of empty seats. At the front, a holographic display flickered to life as they entered. It showed a ship, massive, old, and covered in cosmic dust. "Welcome to Estate Auction 7749B, a computer voice said. "Bidders detected, 2, proceeding with auction." 2 looked around. "We're the only ones here." The hologram showed details about the ship. Name, Eternal Voyage, class, colony vessel, origin, unknown, age, unknown, current bid, 300 credits. "This has to be a mistake," said, but the computer continued. "Bid opens at 300 credits. Do you bid?" Looked at, she shrugged. "It's only 300 credits." "I bid," said. 300 credits from bidder 1, the computer announced. "Any other bids, going once, going twice, sold to bidder 1 for 300 credits." Just like that, owned a colony ship. The computer provided coordinates to the ship's location. It was floating near the station, hidden in the shadow of a dead moon. As they approached in the Morning Star, felt his breath catch. The ship was enormous. It was at least 3 kilometers long, shaped like a massive cylinder. The hull was dark gray, covered in layers of space dust and small meteor impacts. It looked ancient, older than anything had ever seen. "How is this thing still in one piece?" asked. "I don't know," said, "but we're about to find out." They found an airlock on the ship's side. It was sealed but managed to activate the emergency override. The door opened with a hiss of escaping air. They put on their helmets and stepped inside. The interior surprised them. While the outside looked dead, the inside was pristine. The walls were smooth and clean. The floors showed no damage. It was like stepping into a museum. "This doesn't make sense," said, her voice crackling through the helmet radio. "This ship should be falling apart." They walked down a long corridor. Their suit lights cut through the darkness. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Then, without warning, lights began to turn on. First one, then another, then dozens. The corridor filled with soft blue light. Both of them stopped walking. "Did you touch something?" asked. "No," said. "Did you?" "No." The lights continued to activate, spreading down the corridor ahead of them. And then they heard it, a soft humming sound. It was faint but steady, like a heartbeat. "Something is still running," whispered. Checked his scanner. "I'm reading power signatures deep inside the ship. Something is definitely active." They looked at each other through their helmet visors. This was supposed to be a dead ship, abandoned, forgotten, but it was alive. Something inside was waiting. "Should we go back?" asked. Thought about it. The smart thing would be to return to their ship, call for backup, maybe contact the authorities. But he had spent 300 credits on this mystery, and he wanted answers. "No," he said, "we keep going, but carefully." They moved forward, following the lights. The corridor opened into a larger chamber. Inside, they saw technology unlike anything they had encountered before. Strange symbols covered the walls. Control panels with six-fingered interfaces. Screens showing data in languages couldn't read. "This isn't human," said. "This is alien tech." "Yeah," agreed. "Very alien." The humming grew louder. It seemed to come from deeper in the ship. Felt a strange pull, like the ship wanted them to continue, to find whatever was making that sound. He looked at the dark corridor ahead, then back at. "We bought this ship," he said. "We might as well see what we bought." Nodded. They took a deep breath and walked forward into the unknown, following the hum into the heart of the eternal voyage. Neither of them knew that their 300-credit purchase was about to change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The lights pulsed gently around them, and somewhere deep inside the ancient ship, something waited to be found. The humming led them deeper into the ship, and walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The blue lights continued to activate as they moved, like the ship was waking up after a long sleep. "Look at this," said, stopping at a wall panel. She ran her gloved hand over strange symbols carved into the metal. "These markings are everywhere. Whatever species built this ship, they had 6 fingers." Examine the control panels. They were designed for hands bigger than his, with an extra digit. "How long do you think this ship has been floating out here?" "Based on the dust outside, thousands of years, maybe more." Pulled out a scanner and checked the readings. "But inside, everything is preserved. The air is stale but not toxic. Temperature is stable. It's like the ship put itself to sleep." They entered a massive chamber. Their lights couldn't reach the ceiling. The room was so large that their footsteps didn't echo, the space just swallowed the sound. Along the walls, they saw rows of large cylindrical pods, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. "What are those?" asked. Approached one of the pods and wiped away a layer of dust from its surface. Inside, she could see a shape, something large, something that was definitely not human. "Pods," she said quietly. "This is a sleeper ship." Felt his heart beat faster. Sleeper ships were common in human colonies. People went into suspended animation for long journeys, but this ship was ancient. If there were people inside these pods. He walked to the nearest pod and checked its display. The screen was dark. He pressed a button, and it flickered to life. Red text scrolled across the screen in an alien language, but one symbol repeated over and over. Didn't need to read the language to know what it meant. "Critical failure," he said. Moved from pod to pod, checking each one. Every screen showed the same thing. Red warnings, system failures. "They're all dead. The power must have failed centuries ago." They stood in silence among the thousands of pods, thousands of beings who had been trying to reach somewhere, who had fallen asleep and never woken up. "This is a tomb," whispered. "Yeah," agreed. He felt a weight in his chest. These were people. Maybe not human people, but people nonetheless. They had families, dreams, and they all died in the dark asleep. We should check the rest of the ship, said. Maybe we can find out who they were. They found the ship's main computer core in a central chamber. Was better with technology, so watched as she connected her portable terminal to the alien system. It took 30 minutes, but she managed to access the ship's logs. The ship is called Eternal Voyage, read from her screen. But it had another name before, Ara's Hope, the Ara we're fleeing from. Oh no. What? Their sun was dying, expanding. They had 50 years before it would consume their home world. This was one of 30 Exodus ships. They were carrying 40,000 Ara to a new system. His voice was sad. The journey was supposed to take 200 years in sleep. What happened? The logs end abruptly. About 47,000 years ago, something caused a catastrophic power failure. The backup systems lasted for a while, but eventually, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. Looked at the thousands of pods around them. 40,000 souls lost to time. Did any of the other Exodus ships make it? Search the logs. I don't know, there's no record. They continued exploring. The ship was massive, with entire sections they couldn't access. But in one of the deeper chambers, the scanner detected something. Wait, she said. I'm reading a power signature, a small one. They followed the signal to a section that looked different from the others. This area had extra shielding on the walls. The pods here were larger, more advanced. Scientists, maybe, or leaders. Scanner led them to one specific pod. Unlike all the others, this one had a small green light blinking on its control panel. It's active, said, disbelieving. This one still has power. Approached carefully. He wiped the dust from the pod's window. Inside he could see a being. It was tall, maybe 7 feet. It had 6 limbs, 4 arms, and 2 legs. Its skin looked crystalline, like living glass with a soft blue glow inside. One survivor said, out of 40,000. The pod is on minimal power, said, checking the readings. It won't last much longer, maybe a few more weeks. Can we wake him up? Wake him up, looked at like he was crazy. We don't know anything about their biology. We could kill him. He's dying anyway, said. Look at the power levels. If we don't try, he's dead in a month. Bit her lip. She knew was right, but it was still terrifying. They would be responsible for the last member of an entire species. We'd need to route power from the ship's main reactor, if it still works. Let's find out. It took them 4 hours. Worked like a demon, tracing power conduits and rerouting systems that hadn't been touched in 47,000 years. Helped where he could, following her instructions. Finally, she managed to get power flowing to the special chamber. Okay, said. I'm initiating the revival sequence. This is going to take about 20 minutes if something goes wrong. It won't, said, trying to sound confident. They watched as the pod began the wake-up process. Lights changed from green to amber. The temperature inside slowly increased. The crystalline being inside started to move, just a little at first, a finger, then an arm. Finally, the pod opened with a hiss. The being inside took a deep, gasping breath. His eyes opened, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle on his face. They glowed with a soft blue light. He saw and made a sound. It was like glass chimes ringing. Then he sat up slowly, looking around the chamber, at the dark pods, at the emergency lights, at the 2 strange creatures with only 2 arms watching him. The being touched a device on his neck. When he spoke, it translated into words could understand. Where are the others? And looked at each other. How do you tell someone they're the last? I'm sorry, said quietly. The ship's power failed. A long time ago. You're the only one who survived. The being, according to his pod's designation, stared at them. His crystalline skin pulsed with colors, blue to purple to black. He stood on shaking legs and walked to the nearest pod, pressed his 6-fingered hand against it. How long? He asked. 47,000 years, said softly. Made that sound again, the glass chime noise, but this time it sounded like crying. He moved from pod to pod looking at the faces of his people, his family, his world. Then he walked to a terminal and accessed the ship's black box, the final records, the last moments before the power failed. He stood there, reading for a long time. His skin went from black to deep red. When he finally turned back to, and his three eyes were bright with something that looked like fear. "You shouldn't have woken me," said. "You should have let me die with them." "Why?" asked. Pointed at the screen. "Because of what we were carrying, because of what found us, and because it's still out there waiting." Stood at the terminal for another hour, reading through the ship's final logs, and waited quietly. They could see the alien's crystalline skin shifting through different colors: blue, purple, red, black. Each color seemed to mean something different. An emotion, maybe. Finally turned to face them, his three eyes studied and carefully. "You are not Aura," said through his translator device. "What species are you?" "Human," answered. "From a planet called Earth. We're explorers, traders. I bought this ship at an auction." "Bought?" Skin flickered orange. "Someone sold the Eternal Voyage." "Not exactly," explained. "The auction was automated. Nobody else showed up. We paid 300 credits." Was quiet for a moment. Then he made that glass chime sound again, but this time it sounded like laughing, bitter laughing. "The last hope of the Aura civilization, sold for 300 credits. The universe has a dark sense of humor." "What did you mean earlier?" asked. "About what you were carrying?" His colors darkened. "The Eternal Voyage was not just an Exodus ship. We carried something precious, and something terrible." He gestured for them to follow him. They walked through more corridors, deeper into the ship. Moved carefully, still weak from his long sleep. They entered a vault that required biometric signature to open. Inside was a chamber filled with crystalline storage devices. "This is the archive," explained. "The complete genetic library of every Aura who ever lived. Our history, our culture, our science, everything we were." He picked up one of the crystals. It glowed faintly in his hands. "If our people survived anywhere in the galaxy, they could use this to rebuild our species." "That's incredible," said. "Yes," agreed, "but we also carried this." He led them to another chamber. This one was heavily shielded. Inside was a device that looked like a small star contained in a field of energy. "The Aura were a peaceful people. But when our sun began to die, some of our scientists went mad. They believed other species had caused it. They built this. A star killer. A weapon that could destroy suns." Felt his blood go cold. "You brought a doomsday weapon on a colony ship." "We had no choice," said. His skin turned dark blue. Shame guessed. "The extremists threatened to use it on other systems if we didn't take it with us. The Council agreed, planning to dispose of it once we reached our new home. But then," he gestured at the dead ship around them. "The power failure," said. "No," corrected. "The attack. We were hunted." He led them back to the main computer and showed them the final logs. On the screen, saw images of other ships, dozens of them, strange, angular vessels that looked more like weapons than spacecraft. "The Harvesters," explained. "An ancient machine intelligence. They hunt species they deem dangerous, chaos bringers, unpredictable civilizations." His skin pulsed red. "When they detected the Star Killer on our ship, they marked all Aura as threats. They destroyed 29 of our 30 Exodus ships. We were the only ones that escaped. Barely." "But you survived," said. "You made it away." "We went dark," said. "Shut down all systems, drifted on momentum alone. The Harvesters lost us in the void, but the damage was done. The power systems were critically damaged. We thought we had time to repair them. We didn't." His colors shifted to black. "And now I've doomed you too." "What do you mean?" asked. Pointed at the screen. It showed recent data, power signatures, system activations. "When you restored power to wake me, the ship systems activated. Beacons. Identification signals, all the things that mark us as alive. His three eyes looked at them with something like pity. The harvesters have protocols, ancient hunter-killer drones still searching after 47,000 years. They will detect this signal. They will come. How long? Asked. Days, maybe hours. These machines are patient. They wait. They watch. Skin went pale. You should leave, take your ship and run. The harvesters will destroy the eternal voyage and everything on it. If you're gone, you might survive. Looked at, she shook her head. He knew what she was thinking. They couldn't just leave here to die alone. No, said. Skin flickered orange surprise. No, you don't understand. These machines have destroyed thousands of civilizations. They're unstoppable, logical, perfect. Then we'll be illogical and imperfect, said. He pulled out his communication device. Start working on the ship's defensive systems, whatever still works. I need you to show her everything about this ship, how it works, what it can do. You're insane, said. Maybe, agreed, but I didn't pay 300 credits just to abandon my purchase. He started making calls. I know people, good people, crazy people, people who can help. His first call was to a pilot he'd worked with before. Was young and reckless, with a reputation for flying through asteroid fields at insane speeds. You need something, his voice came through. I need a pilot who's not afraid of impossible odds. There was a pause. I'm listening. Next he called Wu, a hacker who lived on Threshold 7. Wu was paranoid and brilliant, always convinced someone was watching him. Ironically, that made him perfect for this situation. Machines trying to kill you, Wu said after explained. Finally, my paranoia is justified. I'm in. Last, he called Bo. Bo was a demolitions expert who'd lost his mining license after an accident involving too many explosives. He now worked freelance, which meant he blew things up for anyone who paid. You're telling me there's ancient murder machines coming, Bo said, and you want me to blow them up? Yes, confirmed. Best offer I've had all month. I'll bring the big charges. Watched all this with growing confusion. His skin kept shifting through colors couldn't interpret. I don't understand. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. My people are dead. I have nothing to offer you. You're in trouble, said simply. That's enough. But the logical choice is to flee. Save yourselves. Looked up from her work. Humans aren't always logical. We're stubborn, stupid sometimes, but we don't leave people behind. Skin turned a color hadn't seen before, soft pink like sunrise. The aura calculated everything. Every decision was analyzed, optimized, and we still died. He looked at the two humans with their crazy plan. Maybe logic isn't everything. Welcome to humanity, said with a grin. We specialize in bad ideas that somehow work. Over the next several hours, Wu and Bo arrived with their ships. They docked with the Eternal Voyage and got to work, showed them the ship's systems, though he kept insisting nothing they did would matter. And Wu worked on the ship's computer, trying to bring weapon systems online. Studied the ship's engines, calculating maneuvers that made crystalline skin turn gray with horror. Bo walked around with a toolkit full of mining explosives, humming happily as he rigged them to anything that looked useful. This is chaos, said, watching the humans work. Yep, agreed. It makes no strategic sense. You're welding civilian hull plating into decoys, creating missiles from mining charges. None of this is designed for combat. Also, yep, said. You're going to get us all killed. Looked at, maybe, but at least we'll go down fighting together. That's the human way. Skin shifted through several colors before settling on soft blue. I've been alone for so long, even if this fails. Thank you. Before could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Wu's voice came over the communication system. Contacts, multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. 12 of them. They matched the profiles in data. Everyone rushed to the command deck. On the screens they could see the harvester ships, Angular, dark, ancient. They moved with perfect precision, forming a pattern around the eternal voyage. Skin went completely black. They're here. Cracked his knuckles. Good, I was getting bored waiting. The harvester ship sent a message. It was in machine code, but Wu translated it. 3 simple words that had been the last thing countless civilizations heard. Chaos detected, terminating. Bring it on, said. The harvester ships moved into attack formation. Watched the screens, his crystalline skin shifting through shades of gray and black. His 3 eyes tracked the enemy vessels with the precision of someone who had studied warfare. They're positioning for a simultaneous strike, said. His voice was flat, resigned. Classic harvester strategy. They'll overwhelm our shields with coordinated fire. Survival probability, 0.003%. Good thing we're not planning to survive, said. We're planning to win. You ready? On the pilot deck, grinned at his controls. Born ready. This ship handles like a drunk elephant, but I'll make it work. Wu, status on their systems. Scanning now, Wu replied from his hacking station. These things are old, really old, but their code is solid, military-grade encryption. This might take a while. Bo. Charges are set, Bo said cheerfully. I've rigged 20 mining explosives to look like missiles. Won't work twice, but the first time should be fun. Skin turned bright yellow, alarm. Wait, you're going to use mining explosives as weapons? Yep, Bo said. That's insane. Mining charges aren't designed for. The harvester ships opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy lanced through space, hitting the Eternal Voyage's shields. The entire ship shuddered. Lights flickered. Alarms blared. Shields at 60%, called out. They're not going to hold for long. Then let's not give them a target, said. His hands danced across the controls. The massive colony ship began to move, not gracefully, not smoothly, but it moved. Grabbed onto a support rail as the ship lurched. What are you doing? Colony ships aren't designed for combat maneuvers. Exactly, said. They won't expect it. The Eternal Voyage twisted in space, its massive bulk rotating like a spinning top. The harvester ships had to adjust their aim. Their next volley missed, passing through empty space where the ship had been moments before. Impossible, whispered. The structural stress should tear the ship apart. Should but won't, said, pulling the ship into another rotation. I've been checking your design. You are built things to last. This baby can take it. Watch the tactical display. The harvester ships were regrouping, recalculating. They were machines, perfect, logical, predictable, and that was their weakness. Open cargo bay 7, ordered. Why, she asked, but her hands were already moving to comply. Trust me. The massive cargo bay doors opened. The harvester ships launched a barrage of missiles at the opening, an obvious weak point, exactly what wanted. Now close it, he shouted. The doors slammed shut, but not before several missiles had entered the bay. They were now inside the ship, trapped. Skin flashed red. You've doomed us. Those missiles will explode. Not if we get rid of them first, said. Vent the cargo bay, everything. She hit the emergency release. The cargo bay's atmosphere explosively decompressed, shooting the missiles back out into space, directly at the harvester ships. The missiles, confused by their sudden reversal, detonated among the enemy formation. 2 harvester ships were caught in the blast. They didn't explode, but their shields flickered and failed. Wu, those 2 ships with no shields. Can you hack them? On it, Wu said. His fingers flew across his keyboard. These machine minds are logical, too logical, they don't expect. Wait, let me try something. He uploaded a file to the damaged harvester ships. It was a collection of human paradoxes and logical impossibilities. This statement is false. The barber who shaves all men who don't shave themselves. Questions with no logical answers. One of the harvester ships stopped moving. Its lights flickered. Then it started spinning in place, its systems trying to process the impossible logic. "Did you just crash an ancient murder machine with riddles?" asked. "Technically, I crashed it with paradoxes," Wu said. "But yeah." The other damaged harvester ship moved to destroy its malfunctioning companion. The machines showed no mercy, even to their own kind. 10 ships left, said, and they're adapting. They won't fall for the same tricks. "Good thing we've got more tricks," Bo said, "firing improvised missiles now." The mining charges launched from the Eternal Voyage's external rails. They weren't aerodynamic. They weren't designed for space combat. They tumbled and spun through the void. The harvester ships calculated trajectories and moved to avoid them, which was exactly what Bo wanted. Detonating in 3, 2, 1. The charges exploded, but not like missiles, like mining charges. Each one created a massive sphere of expanding shrapnel and debris. The harvester ships, having calculated the explosions would be directional, flew directly into the expanding clouds of destruction. 3 more ships were disabled, their hulls punctured, their systems failing. 7 left, counted. "We're actually doing this." Skin was cycling through colors so fast it looked like a rainbow. "This is impossible. You're breaking every rule of space combat." "We didn't read the rules," said, pulling the ship into another impossible maneuver. "Hang on, this is going to be rough." He aimed the Eternal Voyage toward the nearby moon, the same moon that had hidden the ship when first found it. He accelerated, pushing the old engines to their limits. "You're going to crash into the moon," shouted. "Nope," said calmly, "I'm going to use it." The harvester ships followed, sensing an opportunity. They increased their fire, trying to destroy the colony ship before it could reach the moon. At the last possible moment, angled the ship. The Eternal Voyage skimmed the moon's surface, using its gravity to slingshot around, but did something no sane pilot would do. He spun the ship while slingshotting. The massive colony vessel rotated as it accelerated. The centrifugal force was tremendous. Everything inside that wasn't secured flew toward the outer hull, and the others held onto whatever they could find. His crystalline body actually cracked from the stress, though he would heal later. The harvester ships, following too close, couldn't match the maneuver. 3 of them crashed into the moon. 2 more were caught by the Eternal Voyage's spinning hull as it whipped around. The collision destroyed the harvester ships instantly. When the maneuver ended, only 2 enemy ships remained. 2 said, disbelieving, "We're down to 2. Everyone was bruised, battered, and exhausted. The Eternal Voyage had taken heavy damage. Fires burned in 3 sections. The shields were at 5%, but they had survived. The 2 remaining harvester ships regrouped. Then, for the first time in the battle, they did something unexpected. They retreated. "They're running," Wu said. "I can't believe it. Ancient murder machines are running from us." Watched the ships disappear into hyperspace. His skin was pale blue, the color of shock. Harvesters never retreat. Never. In 47,000 years of hunting, they have never retreated. "First time for everything," said. He slumped into a chair, suddenly aware of how tired he was. "You don't understand," said. "Harvesters retreat only when they encounter something they don't understand, something that breaks their logic." His 3 eyes looked at each of the humans in turn. "They retreated because you're chaos, pure chaos, and chaos is the one thing their programming can't handle." Laughed, "Chaos. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever called me." But Wu was still at his station, his face pale. "Guys, we have a problem." Before they retreated, one of the ships sent out a signal. "What kind of signal?" asked. "A long-range transmission to the harvester." Wu's hands shook as he brought up the data. "They sent coordinates, scans, everything they learned about us, about humans." Skin went completely black. "They've marked your species as a threat. The harvesters will know about Earth now, about humanity. They'll come for your world, in force." The celebration died. Everyone stood in silence, the weight of what they'd done settling on them. "How long do we have?" asked. "Years maybe," said. "The harvester is far from here, but they will come, they always do, and when they come they'll bring everything they have, fleets that blot out stars, weapons that crack planets." He looked at the devastation around them. "You won by being unpredictable, by being chaos, but the harvesters will adapt. They'll study. They'll learn." Stood up, his body ached. His ship was damaged. He just learned that his entire species was now marked for death. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. "Good," he said. "Let them come. Let them study us. Let them try to understand humanity." He looked at his crew, at Wu and Bo, at the last of his kind. "Because we'll be ready, and we'll teach them something their programming can't compute." "What's that?" asked. Smiled. "That chaos isn't a weakness, it's our greatest strength." The aftermath of the battle left the eternal voyage in rough shape. Fires were extinguished. Hull breaches were patched. The crew worked through the night, exhausted but alive. Helped where he could, though his crystalline body was still healing from the centrifugal damage. Stood in the command center looking at star charts. Earth was far from here. The harvesters would take years to arrive, but they would come. He needed a plan. Humanity needed a plan. "You're thinking too hard," said, approaching with 2 cups of coffee. She handed one too. "I can hear your brain working from across the room." "We just painted a target on Earth," said. "Every human in the galaxy is now in danger because we saved one alien." "Would you do it differently?" asked. Thought about it. About alone among the dead of his people. About the choice to help instead of run. "No, I'd do it again." "Then stop beating yourself up. We'll figure this out." Over the next few days, they began the real work. Opened the archive, the crystalline storage containing everything the Aura had been. Spent hours studying their technology, their science, their history. "This is incredible," she said, her eyes wide as she scrolled through data. "The Aura were thousands of years ahead of us in some areas: energy systems, materials science, biological engineering." "Can any of it help us against the harvesters?" asked. "Maybe," said, "but there's something else here, something strange." She pulled up a file marked with symbols that pulsed red. "What is this?" The alien came over, his skin shifting to curious orange. He read the file, then his colors went pale. "This is classified. I shouldn't have access to this." "You're the last Aura," said gently. "I think the classification doesn't matter anymore." Was quiet for a moment. Then he opened the file. "This is Project Genesis, a secret initiative from 50,000 years ago. The Aura sent colony seeds across the galaxy, biological packages designed to terraform dead worlds and start life." "We did something similar," said. "Panspermia theories. Some humans believe life on Earth came from space." "It did," said quietly. "One of those colony seeds reached your world, but something went wrong. The seed was contaminated with local biological matter, mammalian DNA. Instead of creating Aura colonies, it created mutations, evolutionary experiments." Felt his heart stop. "What are you saying?" Turned his 3 eyes to. "Humans aren't a separate evolution. You're the result of Aura genetic material mixing with Earth's native life. You're our children, our descendants, changed by 50,000 years of evolution, but still ours." The silence in the room was absolute. Stared at the data, checking it again and again. "This can't be right. We're nothing like you. 2 arms, 2 eyes, no crystalline skin." "Surface differences," said. "But look deeper, your problem-solving abilities, your creativity, your stubborn refusal to accept impossible odds. Those are Aura traits amplified by your mammalian aggression and adaptability." His skin turned soft pink. "We were logical, yes, but we were also dreamers, creators. We just forgot that over the— You didn't. You kept that chaos, that spark." Sat down heavily. "So the Aura didn't go extinct. They evolved into us." "Into many species across the galaxy," corrected. The files show that dozens of worlds received contaminated seeds. Each one created something different, unique, but humans. He looked at them with something like wonder. Humans might be the most successful variant. You've thrived, spread, built civilizations in just a few thousand years. Who had been listening from the doorway spoke up. So what do we do with this information? Tell humanity they're alien descendants. Would it change anything? Wu asked. It changes everything, said. He stood up, an idea forming. Your people created life across the galaxy, dozens of species, all different but all related. He pointed at the star charts. We need to find them, bring them together. For what purpose? Asked. To prepare, to share, to build something new. His voice grew stronger. The harvesters are coming, but they're expecting to find divided species, each fighting alone. What if we give them something else? A galaxy united, different species working together, sharing technology and ideas. Caught on. The Aura archive contains technology from 47,000 years ago, combined with human innovation and whatever these other species have developed. We'd have a chance. Finished. Skin cycled through colors, settling on bright blue hope. My people tried to save themselves by running. We scattered across the stars alone, and we died alone. He looked at the humans around him. Perhaps the better way is to face the darkness together. Over the next weeks, put out a message. It went to every corner of known space. An invitation. The eternal voyage had survived extinction, carried the last hope of an ancient species, and been bought for 300 credits by a curious human. Now it would become something new. A sanctuary, a research station, a symbol. The response was overwhelming. Scientists came first, excited by the Aura archive. Then refugees looking for safety and purpose. Engineers, dreamers, warriors. Within 2 months, 10,000 beings lived on the eternal voyage. Humans, yes, but also species had never seen before. Some might have been Aura descendants. Others were simply curious. Walked through the ship's corridors, no longer alone among the dead. He taught classes on Aura science, learned human philosophy, made friends with beings who had 6 arms or tentacles or wings. This is chaos, he told one day, watching a group of mixed species arguing about shield configurations. Yep, agreed. It's inefficient, illogical, everyone has different ideas. Also, yep. Skin turned that soft pink color again. It's wonderful. Made breakthroughs by combining Aura energy systems with human engineering. Bo developed new weapons by accident while trying to improve mining charges. Wu created a communication network that connected thousands of worlds, trained pilots from a dozen species in his creative flying techniques. And through it all, they prepared, because they knew the harvesters were coming. 6 months after the battle, called to the observatory. His skin was dark purple, serious but not afraid. They're here, said, pointing at the scanner display. A massive fleet had just entered the system. Harvester ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, enough to destroy entire solar systems. That's a lot of ships, said calmly. They've brought everything, said. This is a fleet meant to destroy Earth, to end humanity before you can spread further. Too late for that, said. He activated the communication system. All stations, this is, our guests have arrived. Let's give them a proper welcome. The eternal voyage had changed. It was no longer a tomb ship. Dozens of vessels were docked to its hull, mixed crews from countless species. Each ship had been modified, upgraded, armed with a combination of ancient Aura technology and modern innovation. But more importantly, they had learned. Humans had taught other species to think chaotically, to improvise, to fight dirty, and those species had taught humans their own tricks. Camouflage techniques from the energy manipulation from the phase shifting from the harvester fleet approached, confident in their numbers and their logic. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The battle lasted 3 days. The harvesters fought with perfect precision and overwhelming force, but they faced something they had never encountered before: organized chaos. Species that shouldn't work together, fighting as one. Tactics that made no sense but somehow succeeded. Technology that combined the ancient with the new in ways that broke their calculations. Fought alongside in the command center. His crystalline skin flashed through colors as he coordinated with allies across dozens of ships. He laughed, actually laughed, when a human pilot and a six-armed engineer pulled off a maneuver that destroyed 3 harvester ships at once. "We're going to win," said amazed. "Against all probability, against all logic, we're actually going to win." "That's the human way," said. "We don't accept impossible odds, we make our own odds." When it was over, the harvester fleet retreated. They received a message from the survivors: target species too chaotic to compute, unable to predict, unable to counter, marking system as extreme threat. Do not engage. The galaxy had changed. The auction nobody showed up to had created something unexpected, a place where different species worked together, where chaos and order found balance, where the children of an ancient civilization proved that their parents' legacy was hope, not extinction. Stood with looking out at the stars. His skin was bright gold, joy. "Thank you," said quietly. "For 300 credits you bought a dead ship and created a living future." Smiled, "Best investment I ever made." And somewhere in the archives, the Aura's last message to the future remained: "We dreamed of the stars. May our children reach them in our place." They had, and they had brought friends.